This is good, which was a Supreme Court decision that empowered parents. It was based out of Connecticut. It was a group of parents who had been told they were not allowed to opt their children out of offensive content in all school curriculum. The school district in Montgomery County said you're not allowed. You have to suck it up. Too bad. Your religious objections, you're still going to have to read about the trans kids and the pride puppy. The Supreme Court said, no, parents' religious objections or other objections need to be respected. So how does that translate to Wisconsin? Dan Lennington joins me from the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty to talk about this and recall that before anybody even thought to bring these kinds of lawsuits, the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty was already representing parents who objected to this type of content. Welcome to the program, Dan. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me on, Vicki.
So how do we use this in Wisconsin when Jill Underly refuses to comply with executive orders, when the DPI is out doing teacher training, teaching teachers how to trans kids, when you've got school districts like Wauwatosa that have decided to infuse this kind of vile material into every element of the curriculum? How do parents in Wisconsin use this court decision to protect themselves and their children?
This is a really powerful decision because it establishes what the court said is a right for parents to raise their children in a way that is consistent with their religious beliefs and practices, and that a parent has a right to opt out their children from offensive curriculum that does substantially interfere with their religious freedom. This particular case was dealing with precisely this LGBTQ books that were part of a literacy program. I just want to tell you what these books taught kids. These were all wrapped up in fictional stories, but these were the teachings. Children can be transgender. Pronouns are based on feelings about gender. Same-sex weddings should be celebrated. Same-sex attraction should be celebrated. Kids are born in the wrong bodies sometimes. You should celebrate family members with same-sex attraction. All these things were taught in the context of these books, and teachers were trained how to deal with objections. And the objections were things like, hey, what you're saying about your beliefs are hurtful. When a child says men can't get married, a teacher is supposed to respond with, that's offensive and that's hurtful. A teacher is supposed to say things like, when you're born, people make a guess about your gender. Now, all these things that were stated in these books, which were for, quote, literacy, and then backed up by teacher training to indoctrinate these kids, were in direct contrast with what the parents wanted to teach their kids about religion. The parents who were plaintiffs in this case, which included Muslim and Christian parents, believe that gender and sex are inseparable. Sex is for the marital union between a man and a woman, and mankind is divinely created by man and woman. So these religious principles were taught in the homes, and then these kids would go to school, and the teachers would essentially tell them those religious principles are wrong. The Supreme Court said that is unconstitutional, that interferes with your free exercise of religion and your right to direct the upbringing of your children, and you have a constitutional right to opt out of that curriculum. And that is what's going to be very important for parents here in Wisconsin, is that if they're in a school district that is pushing this transgender garbage or things that conflict with your religious identity and what you're teaching about religion in your home, you will be able to opt out. We at Will are creating a form so that you can give it to your school and tell them, I am not interested in having this stuff taught to my child. I want notice before it happens, which I have a constitutional right to, and I want to opt out, which I also have a constitutional right to. And with all the wailing and screaming you're going to hear this fall, Vicki, is from public school teachers who are going to say, I can't even teach math anymore. I can't teach history because all these crazy religious, but that's overblown, but that's going to be the reaction.
That's 100% true. So let me make a point here, and that is that this material is infused throughout the entirety of the educational process, whether it's, art class, whether it's English class, history, science, math. It's designed to be universal. Wauwatosa is very proud of this. They're probably the best known school district that is proud that they have done this to their curriculum. They've queered their curriculum. And now that's not okay. If you object to that, then what does that mean though, Dan? If let's say I'm a parent and I object to that and I give I want notice, and the entire school curriculum is infused with this stuff. I could argue my child is being denied an education.
Yeah, and you have a right to a free education, accessible education. Federal law protects your right to an education. And so this is going to be some of the kinks we're going to have to work out. I did hear stories last year about fourth and fifth grade students who were taught this curriculum and parents who were opting their kids out. This was a year ago. And that the school district, I think was around Madison, was actually taking these kids and having them sit in the hallway while these books were read, and they were losing educational time. And so it's not going to be enough for the school district basically to refuse to teach your child. You still have a right to education in the state and a right to be taught in public education. And so school districts are not going to be able to just put you in the corner and give you an iPad and tell you to play games. That is going to be something that's going to be really difficult to work out, but these school districts are going to resist, and they're going to probably victimize some kids, and so we're going to have to keep our eyes out for that.
So here's the thing: if they victimize your kids or your grandkids or whatever, you have a resource in Will, for one thing, Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. But I remember the case. I don't want to get the school district wrong. I'm guessing it was Sun Prairie, but yeah, but I can't be certain. They put the kids in the hallway and said, there you go. That's not okay. You're expected to teach the children. Just because you have decided to queer your entire curriculum. I find that, by the way, fascinating, that we need to queer the curriculum. The curriculum wasn't unqueered before. You could learn all about all kinds of different things, but queering the curriculum for diversity means everything has to be put through the lens of sexual politics. But the worry is it's gonna hijack some kids' education. And parents, I'm afraid, won't want to fight in certain areas. So maybe they'll want to fight in Brookfield. Are they going to want to fight in Madison? Are they going to want to put a target on their kids' back? Because that's what ends up happening, and that's what I'm worried about. Because it's still an opt-out, not an opt-in.
Hey, it's difficult to raise kids. When you're a parent, you have to make difficult choices. You have to make sacrifices. You have to stand up for them. You have to make sure that they have food on the table, that they have clothes in their drawer, that they have a clean house. You have to make sure that they get a good education. This is just all part of being an adult and having the children, is that you have to make tough choices and you have to stick up for your kids. That is your essential duty as a parent. So if you're a parent and you're worried about what are they going to think about us, I mean, come on, let's grow up a little bit. Get together with your neighbors and your friends and your other people. And no matter where you live, there's at least 20 or 30% of the parents there that are, Trump supporters, Republicans, conservatives, that are Christians, that oppose this sort of rhetoric and this sort of indoctrination. There are other people. Nobody's alone. And so organize with your community, organize with your other parents. There's Moms for Liberty. There's all sorts of groups out there, Parents Defending Education. There's a Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. We all are out there to help you, but I would not just shy away from this fight. This is a fight for the future of our country, that these kids are going to grow up and be voters. And when you see cities like New York City falling into chaos, and you wonder, why did this happen? Well, maybe it's because we've abandoned our children over the last 2 generations. And our children have learned this garbage and are voting for free supermarkets and rent control because they had not been taught any different. And so now we have to take our duty as parents to educate our children. We have a right to bring up our children and educate them. I also have a duty as a parent to do that sort of thing. So we can't just shrink like wildflowers from this. We have to take up this mantle and take the rights that have been recognized by the Supreme Court, and we need to enforce them in the courts if we have to, and at least enforce them in your own school and tell these teachers you're not going to take this crap.
No doubt. And go to Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty if you need help. Nobody in government's going to fight for your kids. It's on you. You have help with these groups you're talking about. You can organize yourself, but don't wait around for someone in government to fix this. The Supreme Court has done about as much as it can do. Now it's up to parents if they want to seize control of their kids' education. But, unqualified good news. No doubt about it. It's great news. It's the get out of indoctrination free card if parents want it. Thanks, Dan, for coming on the program today.
Thank you, Vicki.